This message comes from Greenlight. Ready to start talking to your kids about financial literacy? Meet Greenlight, the debit card and money app that teaches kids and teens how to earn, save, spend wisely, and invest with your guardrails in place. With Greenlight, you can send money to kids quickly, set up chores, automate allowance, and keep an eye on your kids' spending with real-time notifications. Join millions of parents and kids building healthy financial habits together on Greenlight. Get started, risk-free, at greenlight.com/get started. That's GREENLIGHT.com/get started.
You didn't like Transparent?
Yeah, honestly, it was like a little out there for me.
How was it out there?
Just like, like robots from space. And I was like, where's the guy from Arrested Development? I mean, he was in the ads. So,
Tom,
Hey, guys.
God damn it.
You like it?
Eli, why did you turn my recording studio into I'm going to use this word generously here, a boat?
It's for this week's episode. It's all about Sealand. I skimmed the article, and if you're 3 miles offshore, there are no laws.
Eli, that's not even a little bit true, bro.
Wasn't he the essayist this week? I don't pay attention to these things.
I got everything out here in my lawless boat zone. I got drugs, I got booze, DRM-free DVDs, plus we can finally say whatever we want on the show. No more having to edit for the censors.
Eli,
what?
We've always had the ability to say whatever we want. I edit you because the things you say are terrible, not because of censors.
Oh. Really?
I mean, not everything you say is terrible.
I don't think we should be lying to him right now, guys. I think that's probably not.
Okay, so we don't need best friendia.
No, pal. We don't need best friendia.
Okay. So, question, what do I do with all this child porn?
You hold on to that, bud. That's for you.
Okay.
Hello, and welcome to Citation Needed, the podcast where we choose a subject, read a single article about it on Wikipedia, and pretend we're experts. Because this is the internet. That's how it works now. I'm Tom, and I'll be ruling over ignorance with an iron fist tonight, but I'll need some dukes to join me in my hazard. First up, a man whose kingdom would have the death penalty for spelling and grammar errors. No illusion.
Hey, nobody in my kingdom would be hung for using an improper tense. They would be hanged.
Oh, God. Oh, God. Can I go first?
May you go first.
Also joining us tonight. That's true. I will do it myself at this point.
Continue on, English major, you were saying?
And also joining us tonight. Ouch, that's my heart space. That's all right. I'll cry into money. And also joining us tonight, two men whose kingdoms would involve far more dress up than any of us are comfortable with. Cecil and Eli.
Joke's on you. My cats already have elf ears. So.
Joke's on you. My elf is already wearing cat ears, Tom. So.
All right. I believe they prefer the term little people. Before we begin the show tonight, we'd like to thank our patrons. Your funding keeps the economy of our small nation afloat. And for that, you'll always have a visa to our hearts and a passport to our genitals. If you'd like to learn how to join their ranks, please be sure to stick around until the end of the show. And with that out of the way, tell us, Noah, what person, place, thing, concept, phenomenon, or event will we be talking about today?
Well, today we're going to be taking a suggestion from a patron by the name of Cynthia and discussing the Principality of Sealand.
All right, and Eli, you let Noah write this essay for you, magnanimous, because yours are generally unintelligible gibberish. Thank you. Are you ready to sound like a much smarter man than you really are?
Pinned duty, Tom. Pinned duty.
I think that is a no. So, what is Sealand?
Well, according to some people, Sealand is the smallest sovereign nation in the world. But those people are wrong. Not wrong people would say it's an abandoned naval platform and a crazy guy.
A crazy guy, by the way, who does not validate parking. So don't even ask him. It's weird about it. When did this glorious experiment in freedom begin?
So the story starts during World War II with the British trying to augment their coastal defenses. They realized that several key shipping lanes are vulnerable to sea mines dropped by German aircraft. So they set up a series of defenses called the Munsell Sea Forts so they could keep an eye on the more prone locations.
The problem with a sea fort is that the couch cushions get wet and then they sink.
I know, and like
terrible.
The thing is, like, imagine too the size of the sheets you have to put over. It's just
a
right?
big sheet.
Exactly.
I know.
Yeah. So
And the flashlight doesn't work in there because it's all
You have to have
wet,
so
you
many of them,
know?
but now that there's LED, you have more
I guess
options.
that's true.
Exactly. So among these forts was a platform that became known as Fort Ruffs. It consisted of a pontoon base with a superstructure of 2 hollow towers joined by a deck. Basically, they build these 2 massive towers, tug a pontoon boat out to it, attach it, then flood the boat so it'll stay in place. And that gives them a more or less permanent base in an otherwise vulnerable point. And they don't have to waste a seaworthy vessel to guard it. Now, the location of this particular base is important. It's planted outside the mouth of the River Thames, but importantly, it's located about 7 nautical miles off the coast. And according to international law at the time, the UK could only lay claim to the first 3 nautical miles of coastal waters. In other words, this fort was in international waters.
International waters. I have seen that movie, and I gotta say, gets weird. Guys.
Wait, is this the first time in history the UK doesn't want to lay claim to something?
Right.
You know?
Wait. No indigenous brown people to exploit next.
Yeah,
Next.
exactly.
Moving on.
They see a brown fish and they're like, no.
No.
Right. So eventually World War II ends. America won, by the way. You're welcome, France. And the base falls into disuse. Now, by 1956, the last full-time personnel left, and it just becomes this sort of massive husk rotting in the ocean.
Last time I was swimming. You don't have to be such a dick all the time.
Sorry, I Google
Fuck you
imaged
too.
it, and you came up. It was a whole thing. So about
All
a
these people trying
decade,
to push you back in the water.
Greenpeace coming, they blew you up with dynamite. It was not fun. It was your honeymoon. You should have been able to have a lovely time. It was a whole thing. No,
Getting blown by Greenpeace is not as appealing as it sounds either. Pass.
1 vote. So, about a decade later, the location caught the eye of political subversives that were looking for good places to, of all things, broadcast pirate radio stations from.
What the fuck?
Yeah. I bet you're on that thing for 7 minutes before everybody's done with a fucking pirate jokes.
Right. So in 1964, squatters Jack Moore and his daughter Jane took over the platform and they started broadcasting their program Wonderful Radio London from its deck. Now, by the way, if you're wondering what pirate radio stations were, don't get excited. They mostly played pop and rock music that the BBC wouldn't, and they did it from international waters so they
How does
couldn't
that
get in
make them
trouble.
political subversives if they're just playing like Holiday by Madonna or whatever?
You have not met a British person. See? Right. They're just playing these music that they're kind of not supposed to play. They were like podcasts, except people listened.
Yeah, back then the RSS feeds, you're just chumming the water to get people to. You know.
Tom's like, wait, that's not how you do it?
Why have I been chumming the water for nothing, Cecil? That's a make work errand.
That's a plunger. You're not chumming the water.
I'm chumming before the plunger, I'll tell you that much.
All right, so the Moors did not last long there. Perhaps they realized that living in the English Channel is suboptimal. Perhaps the LSD started to wear off, but one way or the other, they abandoned it shortly afterwards. So over the next couple of years, a few other pirate broadcasters come and go, but on September 2nd of 1967, a man named Paddy Roy Bates enters the story, evicts the broadcasters that are there, and holds onto the platform for the rest of his life.
Wait a minute, he evicts them? Like, what the fuck? He just shows up and is like, this is my permanent stationary radio boat now, assholes. What?
I was gonna say the main thing I've learned from doing this show is that when a human being says, you know what I'm going to do, there is no limit to the insanity that might follow, right? Especially if their name is Roy.
Right. Or how often it turns out okay for that person. Right. Now, originally, Paddy Roy's plan was to broadcast his own pirate radio station, Radio Essex, from it. But despite having all the necessary equipment to do so, he never got around to it. Instead, he just declared the tower's independence from the UK and deemed it the Principality of Sealand.
I like that he never gets around to it. This is like every guy that's ever emailed us after episode 2 of their podcast for a guest spot, and then they never release episode 3.
I'm just picturing some guy like standing on the top of it, like victoriously thrusting a flag into the ocean again and again, just watching it sink. Fuck, this is, I claim that. Oh, shit.
God damn it.
Oh, get it.
If they pile up, if enough of them pile up.
Yeah. I gotta, it's like pickup sticks. I gotta intertwine them. So for about a year, this doesn't matter. Spoiler alert, it never matters. But except for some spiteful pirate radio broadcasters who had lost a crash pad, nobody really gave a fuck about a wackaloon occupying this abandoned platform or whatever he was calling it. But in 1968, Roy made himself really hard to ignore.
Okay, how?
Well, he's British, Tom, so he politely clinked his glass with his butter knife and said,
by shooting at people.
Yeah, that wouldn't work in America.
Well, no. He was shooting at white people. We do notice that.
That changes it. That does
We have
change it.
specials
Unless
on
they're
TV.
kids, in which case we talk about mental illness.
No, we still have specials on TV.
Right, that's true. Right, so apparently...
we are the world.
We are the children until they get shot, and then somehow, like, conversation becomes about whether or not we should talk about mental health or how many doors there are in a building, and then Alex Jones
Again,
is allowed
spoiler
to
alert, no. We don't do that either, actually.
grieving parents on his crazy listeners, and we're all just like, oh, Alex Jones, be Alex Jones, and then nobody's like, hey, why don't we just acid attack that guy? Anyway, so apparently... A couple of workmen are ordered to do some work on the navigational buoy that Roy considers to be part of his territorial waters. So he orders his son, Michael, yes, he has a son who lives on this boat thing with him, to scare them off with a few warning shots. Now, despite declaring his independence and taking the title of Prince Roy, the government definitely considered them British subjects. So Michael winds up with a court summons, for the shooting on firearms charges.
Getting the summons is a total bitch, though. They had to get the right size bottle and cork and float it out. There's some guy in Portugal just shows up to court because of miscalculated ocean currents. He's like, hey, I don't even speak the fucking language. Look at me.
That or like Shackleton's almost a South Georgia island. Here's a clink against the boat. Like, oh, God damn it, turn right. I got a thing now.
Well, they got to do that because some dude was on the beach all day, like a third base coach waving a couple of flags going, this ain't working, governor. We're going to have some kind of bottle.
Right. So the courts review the case and they don't want anything to do with it. Like, they're trying to get out of it, so they point out that the platform is in international waters, so the courts have no jurisdiction. And I just want to say, I feel like it should have taken more than paddling out 3 miles to have a duel or watch some child porn. So that seems like the wrong decision, but that's what they landed on legally. So there you have it.
There's just a group of Aborigines shaking their heads. Sure, that island you ignore. That's the one you roll right past.
Well, I don't know about a group of them. Let's not exaggerate. There's 2 or 3 of them. Yeah.
It's actually a murder of Aboriginals.
Maybe both. So, of course, at this point, Roy is over the moon. In his mind, he's won legal recognition for his tiny little country. So he immediately sets about countrying it up a bit. In 1975, he introduced a 7-article constitution that established a patrilineal monarchy and allowed him the right to amend the Constitution whenever the hell he felt like it for whatever reason he cited. So not exactly a constitution, but he called it one.
That's what matters.
So technically,
yeah, we're pretty much doing the same thing at this point.
Yeah.
I feel.
Okay, yeah, but I'm actually pretty sure his paperwork is in better order. So
He was honest
Trump didn't
about it.
tear it in half.
someone's taping stuff up after Roy. Damn it, man. All right, so this Constitution was followed up by a new flag, which was nothing but a white diagonal on a red field. But as lazy as
Isn't that a dive flag?
Yes.
Just like a man below?
But as lazy as that seems, it is nothing compared to the lyrics of Sealand's national anthem, which is instrumental. He also introduced his own currency, postage, and passports.
Wait, he's printing postage and passports? Where's he printing all this stuff? Is he just gathering? Is he taping a letter to a horseshoe crab and throwing it as hard as he can to the shore?
Okay, he is, but it counts if he gets the letter 1 crab length from the island.
What if it's leaning on the island?
Then free postage for your second letter.
I mean, I'm sure he's going back and forth to the shore, but I love the idea that everything in his country was some kind of like Gilligan's Island meets the Flintstones mashup. Like, do you have that passport? Well, I have the fucking handful of seaweed you mailed to me on the horseshoe crab. That's your fucking passport. You have to call it a passport or you can't come in.
Now, again, Sealand was not really a country.
No.
So all of this shit was as valuable as it would be if you or I printed it up, and his money couldn't buy anything, and his postage was only good if you accompanied it with real country's postage.
Sticker.
Yeah, exactly.
In fact, all mail addressed to Sealand had to be sent to care of a post office box in Essex.
In care of.
I fucking love this. Like, this guy has to like climb a ladder down to a boat, untie the boat, row miles across the ocean, tie up his boat, hike to the post office, get his mail, hike back, row back to the barge, up the fucking ladder again. It's just fucking muffler ads and the penny saver.
Worst trip to mail ever.
Every day.
Yeah. So, a little bit about this money. The coins are issued depicting the nation's coat of arms, which depicts two merlions doubling up.
What is a merlion?
It's a half man, half lion,
No.
Half fish, half lion, right?
half man.
It's
Three halves.
Three halves.
What
There's
makes it
an other
mare?
half
That's three
growing
halves.
out the side. Anyways, the merlions, they're like doubling up on a medieval knight over the motto, Imere Libertas, or from the sea freedom, kinda, sorta. So they're issued in denominations of the Sealand dollar, a currency that Roy calculated as roughly equivalent to the US dollar, and everyone else calculated to be a worthless metal pog. So you can see there's a...
I just want to know, how the fuck is he minting his own metal coins on a fucking boat in the ocean?
He's just carving out little rings of the boat. Going, he's like, only so many of these we can mint, guys.
You can't fool me. That's a sand dollar. So somebody's like, I'll trade you this Sealand dollar for that weird toothy ring that detaches from the cap of the milk jug. The guy's like, let's make it one infinite of Sealand dollars. You have a deal.
I tell you what, I'm even willing to come down 10% on that.
So in addition to the money and the postage, Sealand also, as I said, issues passports. So though no country recognizes them as valid for international travel, still something about the novelty passport struck a chord internationally. It's like Bitcoin. And by 1997, they had issued over 150,000 of them. It got so excessive that in that same year, the Bates family revoked all Sealand passports and started over.
Yeah. The wistful days before 9/11 when you could present a hilariously useless passport and not get an arm up your ass to the elbow.
Yeah, now it has to be twice as hilarious just to be worth it. I get you, man. I'm with you.
Packing list. Sealand passport. TSA brand anal lube. Yep, ready for vacation. Here we go.
Add another 20 minutes to my commute time.
They should make that. So, as I mentioned above, the Constitution calls for a monarchy with Roy at his head. But despite the dictatorial control he granted himself in the founding documents, when it came to dole out titles, Roy only made himself a prince.
What?
Because of the humility, you see. Now, his wife, of course, who, again, is also on this rusted out husk, was Princess Joan. Their son was known as His Royal Highness Prince Michael, and starting in 1999, took on the title of Prince Regent, probably because Roy could no longer handle the many administrative tasks required to run a nation with no citizens in the middle of the ocean. Heath gets it. Heath gets it a lot.
Okay, guys, to be fair, of all royalty, you can mock this man's castle, but he is killing it in the moat department.
Absolutely.
Now, throughout all of this, the Bateses have refrained from shooting anybody. So the British government adopted sort of a hands-off approach called the "we don't really give a shit" doctrine. Now, this policy was later adopted by the U.S. government for everywhere below the Mason-Dixon line. So we're familiar with this. Now, but just because Queen Elizabeth didn't want to retake the platform didn't mean there weren't other claimants to the throne. And that would become painfully clear during the invasion of 1978.
All right. Well, it looks like we're about to witness a homeless battle unlike we've seen since Eli tried to start a Hobo Fights YouTube channel. No on that again. So we'll take a quick break for everybody's favorite use of the interstitial music, apropos of nothing.
rise. The Honorable Justice Hampshire of Frothenberry presides. You may be seated. Today's case is one Paddy Roy Bates versus the Crown Matter of Sealand, his separatist vestigial home.
How does the defendant plead?
You don't own me. I wrote my name in small letters, so you can't trade me in for gold. I'm the king of Sealand. You can't touch me because I'm wearing glue in my pockets.
Well, it's obvious to me that
Sir.
yes, Jones.
This would invite maritime code and extradition, sir.
Oh, that's quite a lot of paperwork, isn't it?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, the crazy guy in a balloon hat can own a dock in the middle of nowhere.
It's a crown. Fuck you.
Boarding pass and passport.
Yeah, I've got it right here, sir.
Principality of Sealand?
Yeah.
That's not a real country. That's an amusement park with whales.
Sad whales.
Eli, you're not in this scat.
You're not in this skit.
I am, obviously.
Oh, God, let's try this again. That's not a real country. That's an amusement park with dolphins.
Very sad dolphins.
Will you fucking stop, please?
You ever see The Cove, Cecil? I don't want to get into it, but I have a bunch of blood to pour on fur.
Anyway, okay. I can't accept this. I'm sorry.
Why not? It's a real place.
Do I have to get out the fucking rubber glove here?
No, you don't. Here's my real passport.
It is pretty hilarious, that thing, though. It's pretty
I know,
funny.
right? Sealand.
Do you have anything else to declare?
30 grand in small bills and this cocaine.
Sad cocaine.
All right, well, much like Sealand, I'm not sure that had to happen. Tell us about the invasion, Eli.
Okay, so this is where we have to introduce the spectacularly christened Alexander Achenbach. Now, the wiki doesn't go into anywhere near enough detail on this guy, but he's a German lawyer who has a Sealand passport, and for reasons unspecified, decide that he's the true and rightful heir to Sealand. So, in August of 1978, he hires a band of German and Dutch mercenaries and sets off to take what's rightfully his.
Fucking what?
That is the most German thing ever next to Richard Spencer's haircut.
What is left to invade? Just Sealand, okay. Fine, let Russia try to take this back.
So Achenbach and his band of desperados wait for Prince Roy and Princess Joan to make a foreign visit for a Starbucks run or something, and they storm the platform. And I do mean storm. They attack with like speedboats and jet skis and helicopters.
What?
Yes. Now, luckily, this is a bloodless coup, but Achenbach does manage to capture the heir to the throne, Prince Michael, and take him hostage.
Did someone order a blitz? No, a blintz with an N. Oh, yeah, sorry. Our bad. We live here now.
Yeah,
so
that's how it
ours.
works in this country, apparently. I love that they took him hostage, right? I mean, you could also say that they sent him to his room, but...
Well, this is what's so awesome. He goes all diehard, right? Because, of course, nobody knows these lands like the prince. So Michael manages to escape from captivity and use secret weapon catches like Heath playing Manhunt on the platform to turn the tables on his attackers. So eventually, he rounds up Achenbach and all his mercenaries and charges them with treason, and then fines them the equivalent of $35,000.
He rounded up all the people, the guys with the helicopters and the jet skis.
Mm-hmm. This one guy?
That guy did that?
He rounds them all up, and then he charges them with treason, and then he fines them $35,000, which
That's why this happened.
You should just
here.
charge them their helicopter.
Yeah, right?
That's what I would do.
I'll just
that
take
thing's
your
worth like
shit.
$1 million. You're
and
good.
again, if you think about it, that's pretty light for high treason, right? But from another perspective, a private citizen kidnapped a bunch of people at gunpoint and then held them for a $35,000 ransom.
Yeah,
So
there's
that was-
also that.
Potato. Yeah, I totally was where you're going here. It's international waters. He should have probably just poly-married all
There
of
you
them
go.
together. You know, I dub you
Right.
Too
Good.
cool
with each
Good
other.
call.
Nobody deserves to be in a poly relationship.
Not for
Hard
nothing,
agree.
Eli, but I don't care how many historical examples you bring me. I'm still not buying the whole kidnapping a bunch of people and holding them for 35 grand ransom is often just a funny misunderstanding excuse, okay?
Okay, you say that now.
Not again. I got to go back. Like, I'm not sure you can kidnap your kidnappers. Like, is that how that works? We should probably check the Sealand legal statutes just to double.
Says right here you can't triple stamp
around.
a double stamp. So.
Right. So, not surprisingly, Achenbach's home government gets involved, as do the representative governments of his mercenary team. So, the governments of the Netherlands, Austria, and Germany all petitioned the Brits to release the hostages. But the UK disavowed the imprisonment and cited the 1968 court decision. They're like, we don't know what we're talking about. That guy's just a boat on his own. Now, clearly, the courts could have sent some folks around to take care of the situation. But my guess is they were like, fuck it. Achenbach stormed the fucking platform with helicopters. We're not getting anybody killed to get him back.
Yeah, and okay, I mean, that's also like Germany's national pastime. So, I mean, you can't even really blame them.
Right.
Our ball went over the fence into Poland. We had to go get it. Our ball was right over there.
Right. So ultimately, the German government decides to send in a negotiator from their London embassy. After several weeks of negotiations, Roy Bates eventually gives in and releases his hostages without compensation.
Without compensation, which means that the several weeks of negotiations were just Roy listing ever less valuable things and a German guy going, no, not that either. Not that either.
Good news, there would be no further armed insurrections during the reign of Prince Roy.
Okay, fun insanity aside, and it is both of those things. How is any of this legal?
Okay, so this is actually kind of a complicated question. Like, is Sealand a country? So there's a couple of ways of looking at this. First is just basic logic, in which case, no. But boo, that's boring. It's not a fucking country. Yeah, obviously. It's a rotting husk with a crazy guy on it. Only sometimes. But there's an interesting legal case that can be made when Germany sent their emissary there. See, when they did that, it was a de facto recognition of Sealand's sovereignty. And when England told Germany, the Netherlands, and Austria to pound sand after Roy kidnapped their citizens, you could say that that too was a de facto recognition.
Oh my God, there's just like a whole group of sovereign citizen listeners right now with their dicks in their hands.
Which, let's face it, is where their dicks were to begin with. So.
Their dicks are just looking up at them, pleading, am I free to go?
Am I being detained?
If you're a sovereign citizen, your dick is detained. Right. So this actually matters more than you think. See, the two most common schools of thought for like the creation of statehood in international law are constitutive and declaratory theories. In the constitutive theory, a state exists exclusively by recognition of other states. Now, nobody ever like officially recognized Sealand, but theory doesn't require that. It just requires that another state treats it as a state. And by sending an actual ambassador, there's no question that Germany did do that. Now, Sealand actually fares even better under the declaratory theory, which requires only that a state meet the minimal criteria for statehood.
Yeah, okay, and remember, Germany invaded them, so that basically makes them part of the EU now.
Exactly.
Right?
I think Sealand's currency is worth more right now.
So, in 1987, the UK extends their territorial waters from 3 to 12 nautical miles. So, today, Sealand firmly sits inside British waters, but if it had already met requirements for statehood before that, it wouldn't matter, right? Like, Ireland is within 12 nautical miles of Northern Ireland after all.
I bet you still had to check that on a map.
Well, you wrote it for me, so you could have written anything and I would have said it was true. So fun game for you to play in the future. Now,
yeah, right?
Of course, the UK and Germany are both among the 165 signatories to the United Nations Convention of the Law of the Sea, which went into force in 1994. And that treaty states unequivocally that, quote, artificial islands, installations, and structures do not possess the status of islands. They have no territorial sea of their own, and their presence does not affect the delimitation of the territorial sea, the exclusive zone, or the continental shelf, end quote. But that's actually not a slam dunk either. See, that's clearly intended to keep a country from putting artificial islands every 12 miles until they own the entire ocean. But that doesn't necessarily mean that an artificial island can't be an independent nation.
All these colonizing countries are just shaking their head. This was so much easier when it was just land, right? We could call to that river. That's
all the non-white people are saying, was it though? Was it really on the average?
And
how's your blanket?
I know this all sounds like And I know this all sounds kind of inconsequential as the platform's legal status, but a few people have actually tried to take advantage of it. So in 2007, the Pirate Bay attempted to purchase Sealand after harsher copyright laws in Sweden prompted them to start looking for another home. There was also an attempt in 2000 to establish a data haven there called Haven Co., but that fell apart within a few years among rumors of legal disputes between the founders and Bates.
Okay, established. They're a country. Do they do anything besides fail as a home for torrents of the Transformer movies? Or
So, while Sealand isn't recognized by any major international sporting body and its population couldn't fill out a football team even if they went Iron Man and used the other team's kicker, the nation does have a proud sporting tradition. Apparently, there are plenty of eccentric athletes whose own countries don't want them representing the homeland that are willing to take up the flag of Sealand.
whoa, hold on. People pretend to be from Sealand when their own homes don't want them?
Exactly, Tom.
If anyone from the Trump administration is listening, I guarantee they're checking right now to see if that goes both ways.
Right, so the first official athlete of Sealand was Darren Blackburn, a runner from Ontario. The first Sealandian medalist was Michael Martell, who won 2 silver medals while representing Sealand in the 2007 World Cup of Kung Fu.
Oh my God, why are we not watching that right now?
Right?
But the favorite son and daughter of Sealand, the athletes guaranteed to rouse the hometown crowd, and the couple that would carry the torch if the International Olympic Committee would ever check their fucking spam folder, are Mark Rye and Emma Haggerty, who brought Sealand its first ever world championship in the 2008 World Egg Throwing Championship.
Please say these were human eggs. Please say these were human eggs. Please.
Right there with you, buddy. Like, I don't watch sports, but I will get ESPN for this.
I'll start a fantasy league. Fuck you.
I started a fantasy league when I was 13.
Now, by the way, if you think Sealand sounds like the place for you, I'm not sure how one would go about moving there, but they'd be happy to sell you a title of individual nobility, including Lord, Baron, and Count. As of 2012, they also began publicly offering knighthoods and coats of arms.
What a fraud. You could just go there, buy a coat of arms, and then sleeve. Oh, come on, that's funny.
Exactly.
Sleeve, because it rhymes with leave.
So on October 9th of 2012, Roy Bates died after battling Alzheimer's disease for several years.
And insanity for all the years leading up to that, too. Also.
How could they tell?
Yeah, right?
He was succeeded in a peaceful transition by his son Michael, who currently resides in Essex, England, because his country is a rotting husk of metal and a cold, shitty chunk of ocean. So,
So Essex, England.
yeah.
All right, if you had to summarize what you've learned in one sentence, what would it be? What would it be?
The birding station wasn't wet enough?
Yeah.
You need a moat.
All right, so are you ready for some questions from our panel?
Oh, I'm ready.
All right. So you mentioned earlier that the Sealand National Anthem was an instrumental, and I feel like we should change that. So which of the following lines should appear in a rousing patriotic song about Sealand? A, oh, say can you see if you zoom in Google Maps all the way? You can, by the way. B, God bless Sealand, land that I love, stand behind her, gurgle, gurgle, gurgle. It's a mistake.
That's what Trump was singing. Okay.
Yeah, right. I already represented more of the lines than he knew. How about C, darling, it's better down where it's wetter, take it from me.
Oh, all right.
Or D,
That's just true.
right? Or D, and crown thy good with brotherhood from C to no wait, that's it.
I'm going to go with B, gurgle, gurgle.
Yes, it is. It was gurgle, gurgle. And yes, that is what Trump was saying. He's also a citizen of Sealand. Not a lot of people know that.
All right, Sealand isn't the only place one can find dubious claims of self-importance propped up by grandiose titles with little evidence of real rulership. Which of the below is least likely to be the true ruler of their fiefdom? A, the Burger King. B, the Dukes of Hazzard. C, Sir Mix-a-Lot.
He's a real knight, though. He wasn't.
Or D, Queen Elizabeth.
Okay, well, it's not D. Some of us are firm monarchists, so we're going to ignore that. I'm going to go with C, Sir Mix-a-Lot.
You are No, wrong. That's baby has got back, actually. That's
Not all babies have back. One particular baby, born in Dallas in 2011. A sweet songstress.
We're moving on.
Captured
moving
our hearts'
on.
imaginations.
Moving on. So clearly, this place needs to rebrand and call itself New Sealand. And what would New Sealand be famous for? A synchronized dance where you make faces and slap your chest. They could call it the Hawk-A-Rana.
nice. I like that one.
B, a fun deck game played with leftover construction washers, shuffleboard of the rings. C, an adorable nickname for the citizens, Seawees. Or D, because a limited land space, scuba version of football, Glugby. Did we both use Glug? We use Gurgle. Okay, all right. Yeah.
It's pretty good. Pretty good. I'm going to go with D.
No, it's Seawees. It's always Seawees.
It's definitely
Sorry.
Seawees because that's
it's
fucking
definitely
adorable.
Seawees. Yeah. Yeah.
All right, Cecil, Seaweeds for the win, buddy.
I'm going to pick the guy who can't get mad at me because he's not here, Heath. Nice
Yes,
to go.
not here to defend himself.
All right, and with that, I'll toss it over to Sarah for last week's Twitter answer and this week's Twitter question.
Thanks, Tom. Last week's assignment was write a whimsical haiku about the Tulsa Massacre. There were lots of great poems, but remember, we only read the ones that were retweeted or shared. This one comes from Aaron Mason on Twitter with this. Elevator pitch. Ended with a woman's scream and hundreds of deaths. This week's question is, if you could add one law to Sealand's constitution with the guarantee of it being accepted, what would it be? Just retweet or Facebook share this episode with your answer for a chance to be next week's winner. Now, we're not going to be able to read the answer to this question for a few weeks because the guys are all taking 2 weeks off at the beginning of July. So they pre-recorded several shows, but we'll be doing more questions mid-month. Don't forget to get your tickets to the live show on August 11th in Chicago. Back to you, Tom.
All right, well, for Eli, Noah, Heath, and Cecil, I'm Tom. Thanking you for hanging out with us today. And we'll be back next week, and by then, Heath will be an expert on something else. Between now and then, you can hear Eli, Cecil, and I. That is not true over on Cognitive Dissonance. Whoever wrote that is a liar.
Totally not true.
Adding that in, Eli is not on the show, but only if you attach your headphones to a separate device that is also playing god-awful movies, The Skeptocrat or The Scathing Atheist, and pretend that he's interrupting us. And if you'd like to
That's
help
what I
keep the
do.
show going, you can make a per-episode donation at patreon.com/citationpod or leave us a 5-star review everywhere you can. If you'd like to get in touch with us, check out past episodes, connect with us on social media, or check the show notes, be sure to check out citationpod.com.